Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Social Media, the Twittering Classes seminar. I'm Nick. I'm the editor of Mixmag, and I'm going to be moderating this panel. Okay, so I'm going to start with just getting everybody on the panel to introduce themselves and just tell you quickly a little bit about who they are and what they do and how that relates to social media. So I'm going to start with the gentleman on my right, which is Chris.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Chris Palengat. I work for the Saatchi and Saatchi Fallon group, part of the Publicis group, a large marketing services organization. And I also have a non-executive director role with a small company called Youth Army, which is involved in the social media space. So I'm involved both in my day job and in my night job, so to speak. My primary responsibility is running the craft foods business globally for the Publicis group. And that is a large, as you know, American food company, which is gradually and inevitably moving away from the old models of communication started after the Second World War into a new space. And so I'll be sharing some of my thoughts on that later.
Okay, Shamal?
Hi, my name is Shamal Ranasinghe. I'm a co-founder of a company called Topspin Media. We're based in California, although I run the UK and international operations out of London. So Topspin creates a direct-to-fan marketing and distribution platform used by artists, labels, managers, marketers, really anybody looking to build a brand and monetize it online. And the kind of the way to think about it is my co-founder and chairman of the board, Peter Gocher, created DigiDesign and invented Pro Tools back in the day. So we're the system kind of after Pro Tools, and we are focused on how you market art as the web evolves, and how you can actually find fans online and acquire them where they are on their terms, as opposed to asking them to come to your site and transact.
Okay. Yeah, Tony?
Hi. I'm Tony Pardo, and I work with Mobile Roadie. I'm basically helping the organization increase their presence internationally, especially here in Europe. And Mobile Roadie provides the premier online do-it-yourself mobile app creator. So pretty much anybody can go online and create their own iPhone and Android app in a matter of hours. Very easy to use, drag and drop. Really designed for artists and labels. So, for example, if you're an artist, you can go online, create your own app very easily, and you know it's ideal to have a mobile app these days, obviously, because it helps a fan or an artist increase their fan base. So we have some nice clients like Robbie Williams, Paul Oakenfold, Ferry Corsten. The list goes on and on.
Okay. Jade?
Hi, I'm Jade Gandhi from Rageous Media. We specialise in social media marketing. We deal with artists, brands, helping them build their profiles on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, and pages like Foursquare. We've worked with everyone from Temper Trap through to Grace Jones, UB40, just helping them communicate with their bands, because a lot of the time artists are very busy and they're not always able to communicate direct with their fans, so we make sure that no one's left out and that everyone's involved.
Thank you. Randy?
Hi, I'm Randy Reed, and I'm an artist manager at Red Light Management in the United States. And I currently look after James Zabiela, Uncle, and everything in James Lavelle's world, and U.S. electronic artists called Pretty Lights. So my spot on this panel is, I think, because I help kind of oversee and manage the social media work that my artists do.
My name is Dubfire. I used to be in a duo called Deep Dish. I've since gone solo. I co-own the Bullet Agency, which is a booking agency, and also own a Sci+Tec label. And I use social media to interact with fans and allow them to share in my experiences.
Cool, thanks. Okay, I think, Chris, maybe if you want to get the ball rolling, you had a few interesting comments in the green room.
Thank you. I'm flattered you think they're interesting. But anyway,
Okay,
I thought the question about social media etiquette was really interesting. The idea of using the word etiquette I thought was rather quaint. Little French word taken on board by the English about 150 years ago. the idea of etiquette actually still being of any value today I found almost hilarious. And basically at its core is this thought about manners and doing the right thing by other people. And so in the way that we're having a bit of a social media thing up here on this table, the equivalent of bad social media behavior, which I think brands, probably more than bands, are doing, is effectively talking over each other and shouting and interrupting conversations, valid, meaningful conversations that are taking place between real human beings are then being trashed by brands that don't really have any interest whatsoever in the real conversations that are taking place. They're only really fundamentally interested in their own agenda. And that strikes me as the rule number one of bad social media engagement, is where the brand thinks that it is more important than the people they're talking to and the conversations that they are having. That was the parallel I wanted to draw.
Okay. Has anybody got any opinions on that original statement?
I just wanted to say actually a couple of things. I'd be interested in your feedback as this, because at the moment you're finding that a lot of the brands are talking over people, and when something goes wrong, which it can go very wrong, and you get bad press, brands have got two options. They can reply and get involved, or they can ignore. So, for example, Urban Outfitters this week have had some very bad PR. They've stolen a design, and they're taking a hard line of not replying to anything. So they've stopped people being able to comment on their Facebook profile, but they're still able to comment on the wall. So they're putting a new fashion item and getting 300 comments commenting against them. But then you've got companies like Nestle, when their branding got changed, they took a very hard line and were very bratish and spoke over their fans. What's your sort of feedback on that for the etiquette from the brand?
Well, I think the truth is I think that a number of the big brands, part of the big marketing companies, are still genuinely trying to get to grips with this new space. The truth is, as I said at the beginning, my opening remark about, for 60 years, the cheapest way to get messages to consumers was via broadcast communications. If we could have put a leaflet through your door with a reply paid postage stamp, we would have done that. Because we actually sort of were interested in what you had to say, but that was far too expensive. It was much cheaper just to carpet bomb you with messages on ITV in the UK, much cheaper. And so I think the mentality historically has all been about disruption. I mean, there are certain agency groups whose literally their positioning is disrupt people. And I'm not sure that's the way to go. So I think that these brands have got a history of talking to people, much in the same way that I am with you now, rather embarrassingly, rather than actually engaging in a really meaningful dialogue. And I think you cited two good examples where brands have got involved and they have to accept fundamentally that I'm not a brand owner, but imagine I was. We don't own the brands. The brands are owned by the people. This is a myth that people need to get their heads around. When you really believe the brand is owned by the people and not by the brand owner, your behavior and your outlook completely changes. Your mentality changes.
Okay. So I suppose relating to music artists and that kind of thing. I mean, what would you? I don't know. Maybe Dubfire, you can answer this. What would you say is a good way to communicate with your audience, as it were?
I mean, with me, I always try to be honest. I try to humanize myself and what I do. We were talking earlier backstage about the mystique, losing the mystique. There's a fine line I think every artist needs to pay attention to. With me, people want to know what it's like to do what I do. I spend most of my time on the road. I travel all the time. So one day, I could be at El Bulli tweeting, about my 52-course meal or whatever. The next day, I'm at some small club in Chicago. The next day after that, I'm at some festival, whatever. By staying in touch with people and interacting via Twitter, via Foursquare, or whatever, it sort of allows them to share in the experience. And I think for a lot of people that becomes very interesting because artists lead very interesting lives. And for someone who's got like a typical 9-to-5 job, who's bored all day, they want to know what we're up to. We could be tweeting from an after party somewhere or halfway around the world or in Japan or whatever. So it's a good way to get like real-time feedback from your fans.
Yes, we were discussing back in the green room that there was a thing in the Sunday Times culture section last week about a recent survey that's saying that some celebrities are running the risk of sort of shortening their career by over-tweeting and basically giving too much away about themselves, which the guy that wrote the piece said is contributing to stars, celebs, whatever, kind of losing the mystique that they maybe once had. I don't know, Jade, you had a few...
Yeah, I mean, I think that is true maybe for some of the bigger celebrities when you want that mystique, like Madonna or someone like that. But I think for new emerging artists, it's really important. I worked with Temper Trap when they first came to the UK, and they had very few followers, not very big fan base at that stage. And it was really important for them to build fans at that level. And by telling people things like they just moved into a flat in London altogether, or that they'd had to cancel their first gigs because there'd been a family death, different things that were really personal, it made their fans feel they were part of the journey. So when they did get their first advert, their fan base were really excited because they felt like they were all in it together, and they wanted to buy the albums, and they wanted to buy the merchandise, and they wanted to support a band that they'd grown with.
Randy, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of the acts, the artists that you work with, and you know how you work their social media?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to add one more point to the question you just posed to here as well, which is I think with a lot of people's Twitter feeds, and what that article talks about too, is not to contradict anything that she's just said, but you have to start with a working knowledge of who your audience actually is. You know, there's artists that are twittering about their bowel movements. That's probably a little much, you know. But one of the things where I think you're not bursting the bubble at all, I think Dubfire is excellent at it, and it comes very naturally to him, is you can be on his Twitter feed and see some of the conversations that he's having with other superstar DJs. As a regular fan, you really feel like you were let into this. It's a little 140-character conversation, but still, you really feel like you were let in on a conversation because you were. And that doesn't blow anything about the pedestal that these DJs are on when they're out playing in front of 30,000 people, literally up on a pedestal. So, but as far as my artists, one of them that I think is really interesting, and I want to kind of widen the conversation just beyond Facebook and Twitter, and talk about just the social media space in general. I have an artist that hasn't done much here in the UK and Europe yet, but is just exploding in America, and that's an artist called Pretty Lights. And one of the things that he's done very effectively through his website and through Facebook is giving. So he gives all of his music away. This is an artist that's only been touring for 2.5 years, and he first started as a bedroom producer. I think when he finished his first record, this was shortly before I worked with him, he just thought, well, I could put it up for sale somewhere, but 20 people are going to buy it. So why don't I put it out for free and just see what happens? And I think he happened to have some luck and some magic and a little bit of the right sound at the right time, but he's been touring now behind the music he's been putting out for 2.5 years, and he's seen 1.6 million album downloads through his website. And the other thing that's happened is it's not just free anymore. And what I mean by that is he's getting income back from it. He sells the same music through iTunes, although we don't advertise that anywhere. And he's selling over 20,000 tracks a month through iTunes. And he's got a younger fan base. Again, it comes back to knowing kind of who your core fan base is. A lot of this fan base, for better or for worse, it's college and high school kids, they feel entitled to free music. So instead of trying to battle that, he just embraced it. And they're happy to pay the ticket prices at his shows. He doesn't play dance clubs. He plays mostly like big rock rooms and hard ticket shows. And they buy tons of merchandise. So they support him financially in other ways. And they seem really grateful verbally on Facebook. They're very grateful for the fact that the music comes free, and they find their own ways to give back. So again, it's a conversation that happens. The conversation starts with him giving music away for free, but then the conversations come back to him in quite a number of different ways. And so.
Can I ask a question about that? Is he giving away the music for free in return for an email?
That's exactly right, and that's a really good point. It took me a little while to convince him of that when we first started working together. It was just free. He didn't want to ask for anything. He had he had a sign-up mailing list at his merchandise table at shows, and he had about 5,000 people on his mailing list. And now he's got about 140,000, which is a really powerful thing to be able to send out a blast and know that you've just reached 140,000 people. So yeah, we do. There's a checkbox you can uncheck if you don't want to get a newsletter. That's fine. But yes, it's like your Topspin platform. We collect an email address, and then you get access to anything free. And in fact, on the website, which is we do it all through his website right now. It remembers your email address, so you only have to enter it once. If he puts out a new track or a new album 6 months from now, you can just go on, and it's like you're a member. It doesn't ask you to go through that process again.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually working with Topspin on that with Linkin Park. So basically, if you download the Linkin Park app and you fill out the mailing list, you get a free track integrated with Topspin's merch store.
Yeah, I'll just give some more kind of supporting evidence on this kind of essential lesson that we've learned over the past 4 years, which is definitely giving away your media in exchange for an email is a very powerful way to increase your email list and your database marketing list. One band, the Decemberists, I'll bring up this case study because it was a pretty interesting one. They launched their new album pre-order with us back in the beginning of the year. They gave away one track, and they told their fans just via their existing email list that there's a new track from the new album is going to be available just on our site. So their existing fans came to the site, got the new track, they put their email in, and then they shared that widget, not just on Facebook and Twitter, but they took the embed code, put it on blogs. Pitchfork and Stereogum took the widgets too. And the band doubled their email list, which was already a sizable email list. And they doubled it in 36 hours. And initially we were like, okay, well, it must have been Pitchfork and Stereogum because they're such massive editorial sites. But then we looked at the data coming through, and we found that actually 80% of the emails came from one-to-one connections, fans posting it on Facebook or Twitter, and posting it across tens of thousands of either Facebook walls, Twitter walls, or websites. And so, the lesson for us was really the only way these days, or one of the more effective ways these days to reach an 18-year-old is through their friends via sharing.
Okay. Chris, what's your take on, as someone who comes from sort of the wider world of advertising, and you're working with Youth Army now, that obviously, as the name suggests, do a lot of youth projects. They do work with a lot of artists that are marketed at young audiences, dance music, that kind of thing. What's your take on kind of, how social media is executed within the dance music world and within that kind of youth world, as someone that, has looked at the bigger picture and worked with all of these kind of big corporate brands as well?
Okay, well, I described myself, I tweeted this morning early on that I felt that I was a serious interloper amongst a whole lot of tomorrow's people that I'm looking at now. My ability to answer that last part of that question is pretty limited, if I'm honest with you. There are other people I work with in Youth Army who are well better qualified than I am. I think that my central point actually has sort of been picked up on both sides here. A friend of my son's is a guy called Marcus Mumford. He was at school with him back in the UK, and he basically said to my son some time ago, a long time ago, our plan will always be to give our music away for free. Whether he's doing this or not, I don't know, but the plan is to always give all our music away for free, because basically that's just advertising for all the things we can make the money from. And I thought that, when I first heard that, I thought that's a really interesting take on it. I think at the end of the day, what brands have to do is they have to, at the most basic level, I think they have to have a purpose, they have to have a vision, they have to have a vision that people who they have selected as their target group actually care about. They have some beliefs that are shared with the people they want to sell to, and then they have behaviors that mirror those beliefs, right? And I think if they do all of those things, they will be inviting consumers to participate. Disruption was sort of stage one of our business. Then it became, interruption / attraction. I think now it's about participation. It's about getting people actually involved, and the way to do that is to get them involved with the mind, with the heart rather than the mind. So it's about a shared vision, a shared purpose for what the future could look like based on what this brand can deliver. That as a promise.
Do you think that a lot of the sort of the old school kind of older generation of people in advertising and stuff like that, do you think they're a little bit wrong-footed or slightly scared of social media and that kind of thing?
I mean, this is on camera, so the answer is no. We're completely, totally on top of it. I think that...
I feel wrong-footed by it. So, I mean, I'm not young anymore, but I work for a youth brand, but, I think it's just the pace of change and stuff can be a little bit kind of...
Jade made the comment back in the green room about going on... Somebody said, you should go on a social media course or something, which is laughable because, of course, by the time you finish the course, even if it's 3 months old, it's completely out of date, everything you would have learned on day one. So everybody is being wrong-footed by it. But this is, I mean, I think the fact that the human race is getting joined up in ways it never was before, this has got to be the biggest dream fulfiller for the human race ever. I really, so many of the big things that the world needs to put right can be put right with this. Not talking about brands and social media, the bigger picture. I think we're all being wrong-footed. Yes, large corporations like mine are being, have been wrong-footed, but we have made massive investments. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars buying companies who we think get it. And everybody in my business recognises that the old way is not going to play going forward. But, even when you're in this space, the pace of change is so quick. Even if things change radically, I mean really radically in 2 years. 2 years is still 700 and whatever it is days. It's quite slow. When you're actually in there, it's the old boiling frog. You can't quite tell what changes are taking place until it's too late. And I am convinced there is going to be, as Malcolm Gladwell would like me to say, a tipping point. The question is, who is prepared for that tipping point and not suddenly claiming when it comes, we really know what we're doing. There will be some who actually do know what they're doing before that point. And the challenge is to try and get people I work with and the clients I work with and care about to be in that space.
I also think you have to be in that space all the time because Facebook is evolving on incredible levels, and what was possible a week ago, I can go to a client and say, this is what I feel, this is what's happening. We can do all of the work, and a week later it's no longer relevant because Facebook are evolving and changing all the time. So you have to be able to prepare to, if you've got a plan and you know what you're going to do and you say, right, this is our strategy, you have to be prepared to change that strategy the next day. And I think that's possibly where some of the old school companies find it difficult to deal with, because they put together their plan and they say, this is our forecast and this is what we want to do, and they sit with their artists, and then a week later that's not relevant. Everyone has to be able to prepare to say, okay, we're going to change. Definitely.
I mean, a good recent example of that, I suppose, is when they Facebook recently changed the suggest function. Basically, I can't even remember exactly, but you used to be able to suggest that you liked an artist to like all of your friends. And now they've limited it to, I think is it 40?
It's only admin that can do that
now.
So,
it's really I know like of a couple of sort of businesses that were just built entirely around that.
But
and trying to sort of harvest friends and stuff, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh!
But now people are then looking around that and thinking, okay, well, let's create an event called Please Can Everyone Come and Like Our Page on Facebook. So people are working quickly to work around gaps within Facebook. They're creating groups. They're doing different things. But Facebook will realise that because people are doing this, that they might have to put things like that back, I think.
Yeah. I just kind of picture Mark Zuckerberg sat with a sort of cat stroking it, kind of just evilly thinking what he's going to do next just to mess us all up. I'm going to make it pink. So Dubfire, I suppose, as an artist, do you? You see, you're connecting with your fans and stuff. Do you think that it helps with your gigs, your attendance? Rather than the obvious, kind of, I'm playing at such and such on Friday. Are there other ways that you can, use that to develop it, or?
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask the promoters who I play for. They all suggest that I tweet if I'm playing that night. Course, And I like to, because you know, especially if it's a club that I enjoy playing at, I like to give them the publicity. You know, with me, I only sort of tweet about and get behind things that I will personally endorse. And you know, these are things that I like to use personally. I'm not getting money, you know, for endorsements or anything like that. If it's a particular restaurant or hotel or whatever, and you know, I have a particularly good experience, I'll tweet about that. If I have a bad one, I'll tweet about that as well. So you really have to ask the promoters to see if it affects attendance or not. I'm really not sure. I think it helps. I'm sure it helps.
Yeah. Do you have? It's quite interesting. I don't know. Well, anybody who works with artists could answer this. Do you have like a tweet and status update limit? Is there like? I know like my experience at Mixmag is it's kind of we try not to bombard people, and it's sort of we try and sort of spread our status updates out during the day so you don't get 3 coming at once and all that kind of stuff. I suppose from the etiquette side of things, you know, are there have you got quite strict parameters? Anybody?
I'm very careful with any artist that I work with not to be bombarding people, and to be really careful that if you make a call to action like buy tickets, come to my gig, that you also give them some news or something else, because you'll find that if you make 3 calls to action in a day but you're not actually giving anything on a personal level, then that takes away the etiquette, because you're just, again, you're shouting at people rather than interacting.
If I can step in, with our platform, when an artist creates their app and the app is out there, they can actually send push notifications for free and in real time, and they can geo-target it down to 1.6 kilometers. And in the platform, you'll actually see a list of the history of your push notifications. And we actually have a warning in there that says, you know, be careful, don't bombard the people, because, you know, obviously they'll get annoyed. So you have the ability to, you know, send a push notification to one person on a map or geo-target it, and then control, you know, and manage how much you've been sending out. Okay. So that's one way to kind of, you know, engage the fan and close that gap between the artist and the fan, but also, you know, manage it as well. So it's pretty powerful.
Dubfire, have you tweeted much stuff that you've instantly regretted or regretted the next day?
All the time, I mean, especially after the gig when you're liquored up or whatever, you know. No, there was I was just thought about it today. There was I was playing at a festival in Japan, and I was it was a techno festival, but DJ Red Alert, and I used to be a hip hop DJ, so I've been a lifelong fan of him. He was playing after Derek May, and I was playing after him, and me and Derek were watching him play, and he was just playing really, really commercial, and of course we, you know, were sakied up and just watching this spectacle in front of us, and I tweeted that he was a sellout, which was, yeah, like really at the time, you know, I did it, but he came up in the middle of my set and said he hadn't seen that. He said, "My name is Red Alert, really nice to meet you, big fan." And of course, like my jaw dropped and I felt like crap, you know. So, yes, you do put your foot in your mouth every once in a while. So I feel really bad about that, but, you know, it's out there and it happens. So, yeah.
Maybe we need like similar sort of alcohol consumption laws, you know, like with driving. So, like,
yeah,
don't drink and tweet.
Well, you're bound.
Campaign.
Not bad, yeah.
A breathalyzer built into the phone.
Maybe the Saatchi guys could...
You're bound to say something that you regret, and it happens, you know. I mean, it's a matter of when, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I was going to say breathalyzer built into the phone that opens up Twitter.
Yeah.
So you can only use Twitter after you blow.
So, seeing, I mean, I know it's a slight distraction, but it is amusing. Has anybody else got any fantastic sort of social media faux pas stories about, you know, stuff when it's kind of been done badly, or you've done something that you've regretted?
I think Kanye's had some pretty glorious moments.
Yeah. What do you think of the whole Kanye West thing? Is that the right way to go about it, or?
I mean, I really am attracted to his music. I'm so unattracted to him as a person. and it's because he totally burst the bubble for me with just how, even before Twitter, but just how outspoken he can be on some of the most banal things.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
I'm going to let you finish. So I suppose that reinforces what we were saying earlier on about sort of bursting the mystique. You know. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? Or?
Yeah, you know, I mean, with Kanye, it's an interesting one because he really did reveal himself, probably expose himself more than he probably, maybe some people think should have, but I think it actually worked in his favor because, I mean, he did commit a huge faux pas in the actual offline world with the Taylor Swift incident and so forth. And then he was really kind of working all that out in the Twitter channel and giving people a human side to him and seeing that he's like actually pretty torn up about it emotionally and so forth. And when he did that whole Taylor Swift thing, I mean, I checked out of my, you know, being a Kanye fan. And then when he did that whole Twitter kind of like stream of consciousness so forth, then it actually made me feel for him and develop some empathy for him. And then I got back to being a fan again.
I think it's quite interesting, isn't it, how you sort of slightly polarized takes on that story. So I suppose it just shows the complexity of it because every person, every individual is different. So they're all going to react and interact in different ways.
Yeah.
This makes it even more difficult. Sorry, do you have something to say?
I was just wondering if that was actually his strategy.
All right.
If he has a PR team that's kind of guiding all that, but you know, just probably not. He's probably just not there, and it was an accident. Didn't really.
So maybe on like a practical level, for people that are trying to build fan bases and build social networks, maybe we could just go through each of the panel and give your sort of tips and advice on how to build a good social network for an artist or a brand organization. Jade?
I mean, I guess I would say with social media, if it's for artists starting out to build their profiles, when they maybe don't have a strategy and they're just building it, one of the things I would say definitely on the etiquette front is don't update your Facebook with your Twitter. I don't know how many people do that, but I find a lot of people don't use Twitter and a lot of people use Facebook as their main platform. And if all they're getting is a Twitter update, it makes the Facebook fans feel like they're not being interacted with. And if you're just on Twitter and you're using Twitter regularly, then if someone leaves a comment on Facebook that's interacting, people don't interact back with them because they're missing it from Twitter. So I would say for me, that's something that's quite important, to make sure that you look after fans in each area rather than using one to update other areas.
Okay. Randy?
I'd say two things, I think. One is we were just talking about how quickly Facebook changes and how they change how Facebook works. But one of the things that I think has changed with Facebook recently is something that has to do with the mentality of the users, especially as it relates to artist pages. And that is, I'm a firm believer now that one of the ways to build engagement and build your fan base on Facebook is to not be afraid to ask for a like for some of the content that you're presenting. I think there should be music and videos people can go and watch there and get drawn in, but I think at a certain stage, and there's apps where you can set it for whatever level you want, whether it's the second thing they watch or hear or the fifth thing, but at some point to go ahead and ask them to basically become a fan. We've just started doing that pretty recently with our artists, and some of them have had amazing results. I mean, growth of 9,000 or 10,000 fans a week, just by asking for people to simply click that button before they go on to the next video, let's say. The other thing I would say, and I think Dubfire, again, does it incredibly well, is on Twitter, I'm still amazed at the number of people who just put a statement out there. There's no hashtags that connect it to anything else out there in the world. There's no reason for anyone in the world to want to retweet it. And that's a big part of Twitter as well, is you want to put, it can come very naturally, but you have to keep it in the back of your mind, is you want some of the things, not all the things, but you want some of the things that you're tweeting about to get retweeted. Then it just goes viral across Twitter. So hashtags, very important.
Dubfire?
Well, don't drunk tweet. First thing. Don't over tweet. I'm honestly still just learning from people around me who are sort of guiding me. Terry Church, who does my PR, he's been very instrumental in steering me in the right direction. You know, and I use things like Twitter DJ, which was developed by Richie Houghton and Brian McDade to stream like in real time the music that I'm playing for fans, so they can see, you know, exactly what I'm playing, and they can go on Beatport or whatever and download it right then and there. But I'm just learning every day. You know, technology is moving so quickly. It's really hard to stay on top of everything.
Cool. Chris?
Well, just to segue the last thing you just said and something that Jay just said, because it's changing so fast, I think that what you stand for, whether that be you, a person, you, a band, you, a brand, needs to be incredibly authentic. So you need to decide, I think you need to decide what your beliefs are, what your purpose is, and stick to that. Picking up on something Jade said, I'm probably the only one in this room who's actually on LinkedIn, because all that's sort of senior executives. And when I see people who are on LinkedIn who link it to their Twitter, their tweets, it's as if they're two people talking. There's one person recommending some serious business book, and then there's an extraordinarily banal remark then gets put on that page. And I think it's quite difficult to almost to decide who you're going to be in this broader space, or whether you're the same person in all spaces, or you have different facets of yourself that you reveal in different spaces. I think that's quite complicated, I think. And the second point is about listening to the people who are listening to you. And you're making the point about retweets. I mean, I would have thought nothing gives you more pride than to write something that then people want to retweet on beyond you, because that said that what you wrote was of value to other people. It's a gift for which you ask nothing in return, except you hope their gratitude. So I think, social media really is about listening to people who are listening to you and thinking less about what I'm going to tell them.
Shamal?
Yeah, I think I have 3 points of advice based on artists using our system. The first one is, and in terms of social media etiquette, just using very practically the term "please retweet" or "please RT" after a post seems to be very effective. Just to give an example, this band Jimmy Eat World that used this about a year and a half ago. Just to give some context, of all the revenue generated in our system, 30% of the revenue comes from direct marketing emails. So email by far is the biggest, most powerful revenue force that artists have on our system, followed by Google search, then direct entry into the search into the browser bar, followed by Facebook, and then Twitter. Twitter accounting for only 2% of revenue. But Jimmy Eat World, with the simple tactic of putting in "please retweet" after their post announcing a pre-order album or a free track, 20% of their revenue came from the Twitter channel. And then other artists kind of picked up on it, but nobody's really doing it that much, just a simple asking their fan bases to retweet. But we find that is actually a very powerful way and a reminder to fans to share it virally, because they feel like they're doing their friends a service by sharing and retweeting, and they feel like they're doing their favorite artist a service as well. So that's the first practical advice. The second is to really kind of be in the moment when you're tweeting. I know it kind of goes contradictory to probably what you've heard here, but in the sense of just not calculating it so much and just being yourself and having that authentic feel, in your engagement with your fans. And the reason I say that is because we're a marketing company, and we looked at all this data coming in our early days and tried to structure like the perfect formula for artists and tell them to tweet at this many times a week, at this hour, not on Fridays, after work, et cetera, et cetera. But then we found that was actually counterintuitive, because then the tweeter, the artist, the brand, the marketer was kind of overthinking it and not actually thinking about kind of just getting into an authentic engagement that's transparent with themselves and the fan. And so the third point is kind of related in the sense that it's you should kind of be yourself and in the social media channel, but also think of it, have in the back of your mind that it's a means to another end. I mean, the mission of my company is to help artists make a living. So ultimately, everything, the marketing, has a purpose, and that's to drive revenue so that the artists can sustain themselves. And it's important that your social media engagement on the channels has the right appropriate hashtags, search tags, trackable links, and so forth. Because then after you make your tweets and so forth, you can measure it, and then you can get an understanding of what's working and what's not via the data.
Cool. Yep. Well, I have to admit I'm an under-tweeter, so I apologize to everybody. With regards to the artist, from our perspective, we try to do two things. One is increase an artist's fan base, and the second really is to close the gap between the artist and the fan. So we believe to do that, have a mobile app, create a mobile app. Because with the mobile app, you can really engage the fan by streaming your tweets right through the app, your RSS feed. You can do push notifications, geo-target them. You can reward fans with badges. For example, if somebody's commenting in the app, you can reward them with, let's say, a gold badge. You can put a coupon behind that badge. You can hyperlink the badge, so it really incentivizes the user to engage with that artist, engage with the brand and the fan. I'm sorry, with the fan and the artist. So yeah, it's really about those two things, increasing the fan base and closing that gap. And we believe a mobile app can do that, and we've seen that it can.
Okay, great. I think we've only got about less than 10 minutes left, so maybe we should have some questions from the floor. Hopefully. Who wants to start? Sorry, this chat.
Do you think that Facebook and Twitter is kind of overused and is going to get to a point maybe in a few years where it will be uncool to be on Facebook or uncool to be on Twitter? Because it is literally got to the point where you're talking to somebody and they're looking at the phone and twittering and, it's not sociable or... Do you think that'll happen? A couple of years, uncool?
Anybody?
Yes.
Good answer.
Well, I personally still use my CB radio, so I think it's probably here to stay. Anybody else got any thoughts on that?
Something else will come along, though, in the social media space that'll start to take the place of one or both of those, just like they're not the first of their kind either.
But you also mean physically, don't you? Sitting with people at dinner and them tweeting rather than interacting humanly, which I think is really... I was on the beach with 5 girlfriends who none of them had seen each other for ages, and they were all sitting on their Blackberries, and I just thought, what's the point in this? Because I'm going to be Facebooking you tomorrow. This is crazy. And I think there is another level of etiquette there. You have to interact with real people as well.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, this gentleman here with the blue T-shirt.
Hiya. Yeah, it's pretty interesting hearing that. But one thing I didn't quite capture is, particularly like Randy, you're on about Pretty Things, is it, your group?
Pretty Lights.
Pretty Lights. How he'd really engage with the fans and stuff, which is cool. He was giving away his music, but how, from having maybe a low fans following him, how did he market himself to build up and create awareness other than given those 3 tracks away? There has to be some other marketing around that, which always seems to be a bit of the kind of black box again.
Yeah, his preferred means of kind of communication between him and the fans is actually a little less on Twitter. He does use Twitter, but really a lot of his engagement with his fans came really naturally through Facebook. So and it comes in person. He spends a lot of time with fans kind of after his shows. I mean, to give a sense of how quickly it's grown, there definitely is, as you said, kind of a black box or phenomenal aspect to it. And in the United States, he's been touring for 2.5 years, and there's probably almost 10 markets now where he's doing over 10,000 people a night, and that's hard tickets sold out in advance, not not dance clubs. So a lot of it comes from there at the shows as well. Obviously, you can't meet 10,000 people in one night, but he's very affable and goes out and engages directly with people at the shows as well, which isn't really media, that's just one-on-one communication. But Facebook really has been a place where he spends a lot of time commenting and also responding to posts that people put on his wall as well. It's not just he puts something up and then you get all the comments. He'll respond to people's comments as well and keep a conversation going.
Anyone else? Sorry.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about perhaps if somebody could provide some advice on the type of content that should be posted up on Facebook via Twitter. Because I know you were talking about not linking the two, so I was wondering if someone had some suggestions on, oh, maybe these things should go on Facebook, and maybe these sorts of things should be going on Twitter.
Oh, I sort of meant more don't let the Twitter account update Facebook. So you can put the same information on each page, but you only have 140 characters on Twitter, and on Facebook you're able to give more information. So rather than editing something to make it work for Twitter, make it work for Facebook in its own way, rather than not posting the same information.
Anybody else got any thoughts on that question? Or? Right, this lady.
Hello. How do you balance when an artist gets so big they simply cannot personally interact or consciously interact with a huge fan base? I mean, do you hire someone? And I mean, is that something that's not even worth doing if you can't do yourself? You can't be yourself, literally. How do you balance that? And every fan wants to be acknowledged somehow.
I work with Ali Campbell from UB40, who's now a solo artist, and he has that problem. He's touring all over the world, he's very busy, and his fans are very, very involved. They really want to communicate with him all the time. Now, you have two channels. You can set up a relationship with the artist where they're texting you and you're tweeting for them, or in the case of Ali Campbell, we post as Ali's team. So his fans know it isn't Ali, but he knows that we speak to him and we see him. So he's got gigs this weekend in London and Birmingham, and we're tweeting, hey, it's going to be amazing, have a great time, share your pictures, big love, Ali's team. So the fans know it's not him, but they also appreciate that they're being updated and kept in the loop, and it keeps it personal without kind of leading the fans to believe something different.
Does he tweet as himself as well? Never?
No,
okay.
No, he doesn't. How we work with him is probably... depends what's going on, but he will write more of a note or an update or a post which goes on his website, and they're always posted as a message from Ali. Okay. And he reads them and he interacts with them, and I know his management are very keen, to show him all the time, but he himself is sending out longer messages, sort of fortnightly, monthly, and then it's all about his fan group. They all are on the forum, they all interact, and then from there, those people that are involved a lot are the people that meet him after the gigs. They have special relationships, they get sent stuff, and they run the forums, and they keep the Twitter and the Facebook alive, and they also have personal relationships from him from the gigs.
Okay. Any more questions? So this gentleman there.
We've talked a lot about Facebook and Twitter, but what happened to MySpace?
It's done.
No.
It's totally done. There's no fucking hope for MySpace.
Oh dear.
Can I just say, because that was the only sort of music-based platform for social interaction, and these two aren't particularly.
It's true. Look for Spotify and Facebook. Oh, SoundCloud is fantastic, but I'm saying look for news coming soon. Spotify, Facebook. Facebook, I think, is finally going to start to get their act together with music a little more than they have. They've been very much sitting on the sidelines. People have been developing apps for it, but they haven't taken a very aggressive stance personally in developing for the music space. You're exactly right. I think we're going to see that change now.
Any more questions?
I just wanted to ask you, Spotify is not in Canada. Do you know?
Or the United States, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
They're having licensing problems with the labels and the publishers. In the UK and Europe, there's general bodies you can go to and as Spotify and strike a deal that all the basically the labels and publishers will respect. In the US, and I assume it's the same in Canada, they have to go to every single company separately and negotiate their separate deals. And it's been a nightmare for them.
Is that because of the PRS society in Canada? Do you know?
No, it's just more the way I think the US and the UK are structured. There's no kind of governing body that is allowed to strike deals on behalf of all the labels as a conglomerate or all the publishers together.
Brutal.
So far, yeah.
Any more questions? Yes, this lady.
Hi. How do you rebuild a social network if you have been attacked by a hacker and you have been closed down? So it's like you normally work as an artist trying to build up this whatever social networks and followers, and then suddenly someone comes through and you get attacked.
That's a good question, I suppose. So what if Facebook shuts your account or you get hacked and like you lose everything? What is there an insurance policy, or how do you rebuild? Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Well, with the mobile app, you can actually ban somebody quite easily. If you go into the CMS that we have, if somebody's abusing it and let's say posting inappropriate comments, you can delete a comment one by one, or you can just ban the person, block them, so they can't continue.
Yeah,
that's with the mobile app. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So from what I understand with Facebook, they actually don't delete the account; they'll deactivate it.
Yeah.
So if you get hacked and if it's taken over by somebody else, just immediately reach out to Facebook. I'm not sure the exact protocols and channels, but chances are hopefully that your content is still there, although you just can't access it at the moment.
Facebook support team are really brilliant with things like that. If someone takes your account or if you've got a problem, they are very good. And the same with Twitter. I mean, when people set up fake accounts and they grow faster than your own account, if you contact those, they are very good. And they normally reply within 48 hours.
I'd love to get your contact at Facebook. I haven't found that at all.
Yeah. You have to go in the room with the guy with the cat. $1 million. Sorry. Any more questions? I was kind of suspecting Ben to come rolling out any minute now, but he doesn't seem to be here. So, do we have any more questions? If not, I'll pose a few more questions to the guys. No? Okay. Oh, this gentleman here. Just there.
Hi guys, good panel. You mentioned about the likes of MySpace becoming slightly irrelevant these days. How much of a headache for a PR and management company is running all these extra social networks when, to be honest, you don't really need them? But do you feel obliged to keep some loyalty to fans that are already on those sites?
Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on it. I mean, it's, from a marketing perspective, it's actually, there is some value on being on MySpace. I mean, if you already have a MySpace profile, I would just keep it. I would take some time, at least monthly, if not weekly, to update it with any of the relevant links that you have to pertinent offers and tours and so forth. Because actually what we find is MySpace actually does drive revenue ultimately into transactions that occur. And a big part of that is because they're very well search engine optimized. So when you're searching on Google and so forth, the MySpace result will filter to the top, mostly over a Facebook artist profile, even sometimes the artist's own website profile. So don't give it up yet. And I would, if time is an issue and you need to focus on certain profiles, I mean, I would definitely focus number one on Facebook. Facebook drives, for us, at least for our artists, ultimately more transactions than Twitter, although Twitter drives more visits to an artist profile, an artist website. The reason is because it's so easy to retweet on Twitter so that you can get your followers, fans' followers to come over quickly. But the fan connections who do that on Facebook actually transact more. So in order, I would go Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, and then all the really cool social services like SoundCloud, and definitely YouTube as well.
Great. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, Pete, we good? Okay. So thank you, everybody. Thanks to the panel. I think they were great.